Guys, Eminem Gaming here, and today I'm back with another video. What I wanted to talk about today was really Scott Rody's comments on Kind of Funny Gaming about the US-based first-party studios for Sony, and also the struggles they've had with Bend, the delays and all that good stuff. Well, not good stuff, but yeah, we're going to talk about that. Also, we're going to talk about worldwide worldwide sales of the PlayStation 4, and yeah, we're going to talk about that. And yeah, let's get into it, guys. So, like I said, Scott Rody had a meeting with the Kind of Funny guys, and they discussed, the state of the US-based first-party studios, which are, well, Naughty Dog, but they didn't mention them, but I will talk on them briefly in this video. Sony San Diego, Sony Santa Monica, and Sucker Punch, the kind of four that he personally looks after. Obviously, Sony have many more studios than that. They've got Japan studio, they've got many others. I'm blanking a bit now, but yeah, so plenty of others, but I'd say these are probably the biggest ones that he's dealing with. But yeah, let's talk about Ben, because I think it was almost certainty that I think everyone thought Ben's game was going to be at PlayStation Experience, but obviously it didn't turn out, and whether the game's not ready, or I think some people were worried, is this game being pushed back, because it has been around about 4 years, hasn't it, since the last Sony Ben game, which was Golden Abyss. So obviously a very long time since that. So I think a few people were worried, and I think he just put those worries to rest. So basically, what's happened was there was a few delays. And it also took time for them to settle on an idea for a game. You were saying, like, the timeline, it's a bit like a roller coaster. You can be working on a few months on a game, put money into it, and then it just not feel right, and then they scrap it. And that's what they're saying. Sony do give a lot of time to their developers, which is really cool to know that they're actually looking after their staff and giving them the time they need to make the games that they want. I think that's awesome thing. And he also mentioned how Sony Bend is a very small team, and it is something we do need to remember, because they've only ever really worked on Vita games. Resistance. I mean, they did have Siphon Filter, didn't they? They had Siphon Filter, and I think that was their only real exclusive, like their own. Even though they made things like Uncharted, it was their only IP that they actually used. I could be wrong, but I think that's what the truth. So, very interesting. So he said they're at the point now where everyone's happy. They've got this game set up, but it's just not the right time to reveal it. And that's probably E3. That's what he's saying. That's what I'm reading from this. Is E3. It's going to be shown. That's going to be awesome if it does happen. Yeah, it's at the stage now where it is really, just probably finalising it, fine-tuning it, getting it ready for release date. That's going to be awesome. I can't wait for that. It's meant to be like a horror game as well, so that'll be interesting. Yeah, and he's saying, not just obviously Bend, but probably quite famously Naughty Dog delaying Uncharted 4. I mean, they had 9 months worth of work from Amy Hemming, Hemming, I think that's the name, and they just kind of scrapped that and then started again. So I mean, that must have been slightly worrying for the Sony staff, but they let them do it, and I think that's really cool that the games we get are the best possible that they can be. Do you know what I mean? I think that's awesome. And and I think this is why it's been a kind of a lack of AAA games for Sony standard for the first 2 years. I mean, like during the PS3, PS2, and PS1, it was like every other week there was a new big game released, and it was crazy. You look at the PS2 library, man, it's like the biggest in certainly consoles, the biggest console library ever made, I think. So that's crazy. Um, so I think that's why we've had a lack. But I mean, the PS3 did take a bit of time to really get into its own as well. But um, I think we're starting to see the fruits of the labour anyway. With Horizon Wild. I did a video on 40 exclusives coming 2016, so make sure to check that out if you haven't. It really does help me out, and let me know what you think on that. So yeah, that's my opinion. He hasn't said this, but I think that's why there's been a lack of AAA games. They don't force studios to work on games that really are not ready, and they just want. They're not going to force them to rush anything. I think that's really cool. So next year they went on about Sucker Punch. It's saying, in terms of like that roller coaster timeline sort of thing, they're sort of earlier in development then. Sucker Punch are pretty much done. They're just ready to reveal it. I think they're getting to that point by the sounds of it with Sucker Punch, but they've had a few playable games. But obviously, like they said, that's not always the final product. That could be completely different to the main game. But yeah, really, he sounded really excited. He's played it. He said it sounds fun. But then they actually discussed retiring IPs, which I thought was a bit of a coincidental timing. With SOCOM being heavily wanted, Crash Bandicoot being wanted heavily. It's interesting saying, we don't retire IPs, which if you looked at some of the games, you think that that's all they do, but technically they don't retire them at all. But they just never do anything with them. So that's really cool. I hope, there's a lot of signs to, maybe a SOCOM, maybe a Crash, and I say it nearly every video. Probably would be saying it for the next three years or something, but I hope we get one of them at least. I'd love, probably for me, Crash, because Crash best game ever made. You know what I mean? Crash was awesome. I love, Crash. But Ratchet and Clank's up there, and we're getting that, so I'll take it. Yeah, so that, like I said, a bit earlier in the progress, so I'm thinking maybe Paris Games Week. I don't think they'll go Gamescom because of the success of Paris Games Week, but you never know. But I assume it's going to be, Paris Games Week. By the way he's speaking, but I could be wrong. It may finally be ready for E3. That would be awesome to see at E3. But we'll just have to wait and see on that one, boys. I'm pretty much sure on Ben's, but I'm not too sure on that. And then Sony Santa Monica. Now, really, the most famous game they made is the God of War franchise, which is, let's be honest, not a small franchise to have. I'm not sure if they've had really. I know they worked on the Order 1886, but I'm not sure if they've had many other AAA games. I mean, it's one of the biggest studios, and I know they work on a lot of games, but like exclusively made by Sony Santa Monica. I'm not sure if they've had too many, but I could be wrong. Basically, he says he says that he's really happy with the game. He says it looks amazing. Now, the cool thing was he kind of got more excited for this game than any other. So that's, he looked happy about Sucker Punch. He looked really happy and excited for Sony Bend, but he looked like, yeah, you're gonna like this one. So that's cool. I think I can't imagine it being anything other than God of War, like 4. Now it's interesting. I know they were working on an IP, but they kind of scrapped that. So it'd be interesting to see what they do. Do they, remake the series? Have different type of gods? Kratos did kind of crawl away at the end. Are they going to bring him back? But but he kind of killed everyone, didn't he? So I'm not too sure what they're going to do with that. Maybe, make it a female character. There's been a few rumours of that. I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure how the hardcore fans are going to feel about that, but interesting. And I can't wait for next year. Just announcements, man. Not only games to play, but announcements. Looks really cool. Amazing year again. And then he says we're not quite ready to show what's going on with Santa Monica, which is understandable. I think even if they were, they wouldn't show it at PlayStation Experience because it's going to be too big, the game from Santa Monica, to show it PlayStation Experience. And then he goes on about other first-party studios, about acquiring them. Now, for me, there's two I want. There's two that work very well with Sony, and I want, desperately, if I could have any two. Insomniac, I mean, they make, although Sony owns the IP, they make my third favourite franchise within PlayStation. For me, the top five, I may even make a video about that, but it's probably not because I'm going to say it now. Uncharted is fifth, God of War third, Ratchet and Clank third, Crash Bandicoot second, and first of all is The Last of Us. Last of Us was a masterpiece, and some people may disagree. For me, it was the best game, in my opinion, ever made. For me, though, I will just briefly talk about this before I go on to the next sort of topics, which is to do with sales. For me, Naughty Dog, there's been rumours of The Last of Us 2. Some people are totally against it. Some people are, yes, we need The Last of Us 2. For me, either way. If they say, look, we want to work on something new, fine, leave it untouched, leave it as a masterpiece. If they say, look, we want to extend this story, we want to finish off Ellie's story, we want to finish off Joel's story, brilliant. The thing is, Naughty Dog have never made a bad game. They worked on Ratchet and Clank 1, I believe, my favourite franchise. They worked on, well, they made, didn't they? No, Activision owns the IP, but I think they made Crash Bandicoot. I was young, so I didn't really know about who owns IPs and all that. But Naughty Dog did that, Naughty Dog did The Last of Us, Apart from God of War, I think. That's the only one that they haven't worked on. And that's impressive to be in my top 5 games of all time, so that's really cool. But yeah, Insomniac, I would love to see. Ratchet and Clank, obviously. Resistance, I'd love to see a Resistance. I hear good things. It's one of them things, I'm in a lucky situation now where I can get the AAA games, the $60 games, the £50 games. I'm a very lucky situation. I haven't always been in that situation, so in terms of getting games like Resistance and that, I would love to, but I just didn't have the cash at the time when they came out. So what I'd love personally is remaster all 3, put on one disc, and yeah, I would love that. But I'd take, a new Resistance. So yeah, that'd be awesome. So yeah, and obviously, did I say From Software? Yeah, Insomniac, From Software. From Software, it's one of them few companies, they've never really made a bad game. Santa Monica, new game, do you think it would be God of War? Do you think it would be something else? Let me know about Sony Ben's game, are you excited for that? And Sucker Punch new IP, what do you think it will be? Do you think they're going to do an open world? Have you seen any leaks that I haven't seen? Let me know if you have. But let's get into these sales then. So I was on VG Charts, because this is where the source is, if you didn't know, VG Charts. So make sure you check that out, just if you've got any questions. So I was checking, someone told me about the sales of the PlayStation 4, but I thought while I was on the website I might as well check up on the Uncharted sales, because there's been a bit of mumbling about the Uncharted's done really bad. So I thought, oh damn, this is my favourite. This, one of my favourite franchises, man. I don't want it to, um, do bad. I wanted it to do well. So I went on the website, and again, I did actually tweet that Jay Barry. So, like I say, check him out on Twitter, YouTube, and all that good stuff. He's a top guy. And I did actually send him the link because I was like really happy. It sold over 2 million now. It's sold 2.19 million physical copies. So, that's not including digital. So, that's really impressive actually. So the only numbers we know is 2.19 million. Now you assume at least one person has bought the Uncharted Nathan Drake collection on a digital download, but we can't be too sure about that. But I had a really cool guy. He messaged me on Twitter when I showed Jay this picture, and he actually said that this is I think he said before Black Friday, which means that they didn't count like 800,000 copies of the bundle that was actually sold. So putting the sales of the game around nearly 3 million physical copies, that's crazy, guys. To think that a game that people were complaining, saying that they hadn't done too well, actually sold damn near 3 million copies, which is very impressive. For a remaster with no online, that's crazy. Maybe a few people bought it for the multiplayer beta, but if you have done that, I hope you enjoy the series, guys. Like I said, Uncharted's very close to my heart, and I love it. It's amazing. So yeah, I was just over the moon when I saw that the sales were really good for Uncharted, and not to believe everything you first see, because the way people are talking about Uncharted sales, you'd think 200,000 in the first month or something crazy, but really good, man, really good sales. But now let's get into the physical, the hardware sales, man. Let's get into this. So the very interesting thing about this was, because I was watching Stone Fox Media channel. Again, like I said, he isn't going to know me, but if you want to check his channel out, obviously do that. And he was discussing the sales that actually PlayStation 4 has now surpassed, and actually by about 3 million, the sales of Xbox One and Wii U put together. That's very impressive. So I'm going to give you the numbers now. PlayStation's in front with 31.496906, so 31,496,906 PlayStation 4s have been sold. Xbox 17,174,630 Xbox is sold, and Wii, which actually came out I believe 2 years before the Xbox One and the PS4, so struggling a little bit, with 11,243,204, which is ironic because I'm actually really excited to see the NX, how that does. Yeah, it's great. Like I said, guys, it's an absolute great time to be a gamer, and I'm in the mind that Tomb Raider, which is a really good game, like I said, review coming, guys, would never be coming to the PlayStation if it weren't for the fact of the sales. So I think some people think that sales, they don't really matter, and in a way they don't. They don't affect your experience in the game. They don't affect how good a game is or any of that sort of stuff. But it definitely helps get exclusives, bring games to the console that you enjoy. So that's why I love talking about sales, because I remember, the Xbox 360, PS3 days, there was a lot of games that were really cool that, developers were just giving exclusively or timed exclusively to the to the Xbox, because it had a larger share, or at least a larger share in the places where it was going to sell, like North America, over the PlayStation. So yeah, definitely a great time to be a PlayStation gamer, man. Sales are good, games are selling very well. And I also did a bit of research just while I was on the site, other exclusives. The big exclusives, I'm talking Infamous, I believe the Order. I'm not too sure on the Order. Drive Club, Bloodborne. These have all sold over 2 million copies. And the weird thing was, actually, Infamous sold about 1 million in the first week, with 7 million PlayStations sold. So that was pretty impressive when that came out. And it's just very interesting, 3 million copies in 2 months of Uncharted. What they're going to do when Uncharted 4 comes out, man, that's it's going to be very interesting to see. But like I said, guys, just, great time to be a gamer. Um, I, I kind of think, there was a chance for the Xbox. I'm not feeling it now, guys. Now, don't get me wrong, I've got an Xbox. Fantastic system. I'm looking at these numbers, man. It's nearly 2-1 on the Xbox sold, and I'm just thinking in my head now, what are the territories which Xbox could win? The US, obviously, it's the PlayStation now has over 1 million lead in the US. But I feel, with Halo, Gears, and Forza, I think they sell quite well in the US. So possibly they could pull it back there. If they maybe have another price drop to 250. Like, I'm not being harsh, it's a good system. I don't know what it's selling, but it's just not selling. Do you know what I mean? It's not selling at all. Well, it is, but it's not really selling the numbers that should be for an Xbox, man. Then you got, but then I think maybe the UK. I'm just trying to think where possibly could the Xbox, pull back this, uh, 14 million lead from, in the US, maybe they, by the end of the generation, maybe have 1 million lead over the PlayStation. I'm just trying to think in my head where it could possibly come from, because that's me being really kind, saying they could have 1 million lead when that would have to be a 2 million switch between the PlayStation and the Xbox One. And then the UK, I mean, it's like a 70% lead apparently in the UK, and 90% over Europe, and basically almost exclusively basically none sell in Japan. So it's going to be very interesting, guys. I think it's, with the length of the site, I think it's over now in terms of, which is going to, ultimately win and have the most sales. I think it's really over. I think, the most exciting thing for me is what actually this NX does, because it's going to be because it's Nintendo. It's obviously going to be strange and have some gimmicks on it, but could it sell another 100 million like the Wii? Who knows? But yeah, guys, what do you think? Do you care about the sales at all? Do they bother you at all? I love to keep on top of them. I think it's a really interesting subject to keep on top of, because you notice now, whereas a lot of exclusives, even at the start of the gen with the Tomb Raider, go into the Xbox, because these deals aren't done in a week. They're done probably a year, 2 years before the game comes out. The Xbox was pretty level, and they gave it to the Xbox One. But now Final Fantasy VII, PlayStation exclusive, maybe timed. I'm not too sure. Ni no Kuni, full exclusive. Ni no Kuni 2, full exclusive. Paragon, possibly timed exclusive. But as far as we know, it's only coming to PlayStation. But let's say that's timed exclusive. Final Fantasy 14 was a timed exclusive. So definitely, a lot of developers are moving towards the PlayStation, even with the Call of Duty giving 30 days early map access. I think sales don't matter to me. Then they're not giving me any money, but they do matter in the long term in terms of what we actually get on our system. We get more You know, if you like Battlefront, you get more stuff on that. If you like Call of Duty, you get more stuff on that. Assassin's Creed. Every big game is, you know, marketed and has exclusive content, you know, apart from Fallout and The Witcher, um, with PlayStation, which is very interesting. Um, but yeah, I'm rambling now, guys. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below of these subjects I've talked about today. They were just on my mind. I didn't know what to make a video about, so I thought, let's talk about Scott Rhodey and let's talk about some sales. Um, but I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you guys soon. Goodbye.